So ladies and gentlemen, today on the Nissim Black Show, I want to talk to you about a few different things. First off, is anti-Semitism, is it really rising in the U.S. or is it only around the world? In the U.S., nothing's actually happening. I have what to say about what J.D. Vance actually had to say about anti-Semitism. And the reason why I want to talk about it because we have evidence. We've seen it. I'm going to show you videos today of people in New York, African Americans. What's the relationship between African Americans and Jews today? We talk about what happened in the Civil Rights Movement, but what about today? What have you done for me lately? And of course, Matt Gaetz recently went on the Tucker Carlson show, and I want to talk to you about his flip. He's flipping just like Tucker and Megyn, or is he really? He says that he's pro-Israel, but nothing that he's putting out right now seems to be so pro-Israel at all. And above all, to speak with all of you, some of you have left comments that I found to be very interesting, and I want to address all of them, so I'm going to address them on this show. So buckle up, roll the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Nissim Black Show. Do you really think, if you were to put yourself in their shoes, that you'd be worried about who the politician, what side they're on? It just does not work that way. I'm Nissim Black, Israeli-American Black Hasidic Jewish rapper turned podcaster. This is the Nissim Black Show, where prophecy meets politics, faith collides with culture, and we search for truth in a world on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Nissim Black Show. Always my pleasure, my honor, my joy. You are rocking with your boy. And I want to talk to you guys about anti-Semitism right now because J.D. Vance said something. I couldn't find the clip, so I don't have the clip for you today, and I apologize because, I love to be able to show whatever it is that I'm talking about. But unfortunately, we are living in a world today where people are living in denial, Holocaust denial. We want to deny, anything that had to do with Jewish suffering. Now, all of a sudden, we want to deny the Jews are the real Jews today per people like Tucker Carlson. But the idea or the audacity that people would have to say that there's not anti-Semitism or Jew hatred. Maybe that's the word that we're looking for at this point. Maybe we need to define what the terms are. J.D. Vance supposedly recently in some interview said that anti-Semitism is not a problem in America right now. But I think that we all know that it is. Like I'm trying to find some. I want to give grace. I can't give grace. I can't give grace if you're saying something that everybody sees, everybody knows what's going on. I'm talking to Jews all the time, people high up, people lower, I wouldn't say lower, but I'm saying people high up in positions, even in the White House. Everybody's worried about it right now. So maybe you have to be Jewish to feel it. I don't understand. But for him to say that, I think it's very, very dishonest. And it goes against things that he said earlier. I will touch more on what J.D. Vance actually had to say in another one. If I can find that clip, if you guys know where I can find it, please send it. Drop it in a comment, something. But I want to prove what I'm saying. I want to be able to always show what it is, what I'm saying. Wait, before you get back to the show, I just want to let you know that we have launched NissimBlack.store. All you have to do is go online, order yourself one of these amazing mugs, God is King, with a matching t-shirt. We have a whole plethora of different shirts that are all about representing God wherever you go. As believers in the one true God of Israel, it is our duty not to hide, not to back down, not to shy away from expressing our faith wherever it is that we go. If you want to go and walk righteously before your God with a nice t-shirt, with a nice sweater, with a mug that's reminding us constantly that God is here with us, go to NissimBlack.store and make sure you get yourself some merch. It really helps support this channel and everything that we're doing and everything that we plan to do. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. I thank you all for all of your support. Okay, back to the show. So in New York, there was a couple incidents that happened. There was in Crown Heights. There was a stabbing. There was on the subway. There was drama. What I'm going to do is let's roll clip one and just show you what anti-Semitism doesn't look like, I guess.
Chill.
Teach this little nigga a lesson. That's gonna be a problem. Touch me, bro.
Yo, chill. Chill, bro. Where am I sitting?
So I guess that's just, I don't know what that is. Maybe they got into it. Now, I'm very leery all the time of showing clips where I don't have the beginning of the clip. Now, there's multiple reasons for why that could happen, right? Somebody could have sent it in because, once they seen it got to a certain place, they pulled out their phone, and then that's when they started filming. There's other times we saw a lot of what went on during 2020 while the world was supposedly shut down, and all the only people that could go out were people that were doing peaceful protests. We did see a lot of that, a lot of the drama that was going on with the cops, that when they played the full video, you saw something else was different. But I think we all can really get a sense of what's going on inside of this video, right? Obviously, these guys riding on the train, and that individual, I think I was told one of the guys actually lives not far from me. He happened to have been in New York at the time, but he actually is a resident of Israel. I will verify and let you know if it's important. I don't think it's that important. However, I don't think they were doing things to aggravate these people. Something tells me they weren't doing anything to aggravate these people. Now, if you think that, it's not fair to say that, I just really don't. It's enough. The anti-Semitism, especially in New York, I genuinely feel that New York is one of the most racist places. Now, I'm not trying to, say anything bad on New York. I'm in New York a lot. But in terms of racism, it may be worse in the South. Yeah, I mean, you got Spanish Harlem, Black Harlem, this one, but the Italians, it's most divided. I originally come from Seattle. So in Seattle, I lived in the zip code of 98118. 98118 is the most diverse zip code in the United States. At least at one point it was. I don't know what there is now. Now, in New York, you don't get that, right? So that segregation that seems to still be somewhere woven, there's been a lot of gentrification and a lot of people living everywhere now. But I'm saying that for a long time, it's been like that in New York. So what happens is people develop ideas about other people, right? And it's a very, outspoken culture even over there. I'd say the further you go to the East Coast, it gets like that. Midwest is very warm and genuinely very loving. However, in the East Coast, it gets cold. People are less politically correct. And so whatever a person feels, whatever stigma, whatever it is sitting there and it's boiling in people. So, the wrong thing, you brush up against the person the wrong way. Either way it goes, to say anti-Semitism is not happening, unfortunately happening in the Black community like crazy. I want to show you another clip of a person actually being stabbed. Also, too, this was in Crown Heights, and but then again, ladies and gentlemen, there is no anti-Semitism. That's not what you just saw. That's not what's going on. It's just so perplexing for me that JD would even say that. Maybe because these things are not going on the register. Now, with this particular individual, actually does seem as if he has been taken into custody. This was the individual right there who stabbed him on the corner. And from what we know, is now he is in custody. And it's so sad. It's so sad that we would even begin to pretend as if this is not an issue. People are uncomfortable with telling the truth. And that's the truth. And I've seen a lot of this, this pandering to this, to all these groypers or whatever the case is, and trying to downplay things. I don't know what was really being said, but it's true. And it's not just in America, of course. This is all around the world. In Australia, again today, in Melbourne, I just saw now that they blew up a car because it had a Jewish menorah on it. I mean, this is happening all over the world. And one of the things is specifically when it's happening right now, especially inside the Black community, and I'm going to speak on it because it's real, it needs to be said. And my message is for the Jewish people and for the people who are supporters of the Jewish people. Quit pandering to these people. Quit telling them, oh my goodness, I used to, Jews were part of the, the civil rights movement. Abraham Herschel, he walked with Dr. Martin Luther King and all that. It's over. Quit pandering to people. If people are decent people, they're going to treat you decently. You don't have to remind people of the favors that you've done for them. You don't have to remind people for how much good and everything that we do for humanity, like us because we're like you, or, Tel Aviv's gay. Gay people should love us. Quit pandering to people. People that are decent will treat you decently. People that are not decent will not treat you decently. And that's all that there is to say. Or there's no reason even to think that you're going to win over somebody by telling them about something that you've done for them or something that you do for them. We live in a world, unfortunately, today where people will bite the hand that they feed them. People are backstabbing. It's a backstabbing society that we live in right now. It just is what it is. I have to be honest. People are breaking contracts and everybody moving around. The average person, I've said this before, doesn't stay at a job for 2 years. This is not the era of the past where people had a certain loyalty to companies and to businesses and places that they, even to marriage. I mean, look at the hookup movement, right? So quit trying to pander to these people. Decent people are going to treat you decently. Without you having to remind them, oh, well, maybe, we were together at this time. There is discrimination that goes on in the world that happens to multiple groups, and it just is what it is. And pandering and saying sorry and all these other things about this, it needs to be said. And my only problem with this is that I think in Mamdani, New York, this is going to get worse. This is going to get worse. I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but I do want to be the bearer of truth. I do want to be the bearer of truth. And I think that this goes on, and this is going to be a problem. So if you can, make whatever moves you need to make to be able to get up out of there. However, what I will say, though, interesting chart that I just was able to see. I'm going to try to pull it up here on the screen so everybody can see it. This interesting chart that actually is showing that maybe the world is not so crazy, at least the conservative movement that we thought. Now, it's very hard for you to see that. I apologize for the very small text. Now, the blue over here is showing us the people that say that Israel is an ally. It is one of the U.S. allies. These are people who obviously believe in the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. And then you have the purple. The purple are the people that believes that the U.S. is the top ally. They are the top, they are the number one ally. And then over in the green, you have the people that say that Israel is not an ally. Obviously, the anti-Israel. Now, this poll was taken at TPUSA, so shout out to one of the people who were in the comment section who actually turned us on to this, because that's how I found out that such a chart actually existed. So they did do this polling. Very, very important to know that you could take that, and two things could be true at the same time. You could say that, anti-Semitism isn't as crazy as it is in Europe. That's true. But as I just heard, I think it was Pastor Dumasani Washington. He was doing an interview with JLTV. So shout out to him. America's 5 minutes behind. You're 5 minutes behind. The infiltration of radical Islam in the United States it's taking over, regardless of whatever you feel. It doesn't have to. But it's going to take people to make a very serious stance before this starts to take over the U.S. And with God's help, it happens very, very soon.
My name is Dr. Enad Green. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm a mother of children with dyslexia and the founder and executive director of Kol Koreh, a nonprofit organization that supports children struggling with dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities. I started Kol Koreh about 12 years ago after making Aliyah and realizing that children with dyslexia fall through the cracks in the educational system.
There's a war of kids who have challenges with their learning, dyslexia. These are kids that are already falling through the cracks, and the war has only made it worse. There's not a lot of organizations that are out there on the front line like Kol Koreh.
Before my son came to Kol Koreh, he would sit in a classroom. He wouldn't understand anything in English and in Hebrew. His friends were progressing around him. They were reading books. He used to just sit there daydreaming and struggling. And he came home and he used to say he hates school and he doesn't want to go, and he used to fight learning. And since Kol Koreh, he's realized that he can learn.
I've been here, part of this learning center for about 7 years, and I've been feeling the impact. We work with kids countrywide. Whatever kids feel about themselves as learners, they really feel about themselves as members of the community.
So I'm imploring you all, my audience, to help Kol Koreh. Please help this organization continue to do their holy work. Again, ladies and gentlemen, remember you are listening to the Nissim Black Show. And I appreciate you. So listen, Matt Gaetz has flipped, and it's so hard for all of us. Like, I think somebody asked me the other day, they're like, is there something in the Kool-Aid or something like that? Like, what's going on with all these people? Like, and the narrative that they're trying to sell us all is that, we were once supportive of Israel, And then our eyes got open. And then all of a sudden there was some revelation, which happened simultaneously, right? As this war is going on, happened simultaneously as Qatar and Saudi money is flowing in to social media and to influencers. It just happens to all of a sudden, something I had some revelation, and somehow all of these people have, changed their mind. Matt Gaetz was one of those guys. I didn't think they would get him, but I think they got him. Now I want to show you Matt Gaetz completely flipping one story about these allegations that were made towards him. One of the reasons why he was not able to enter into the administration, actually, or where he became this can't deal with Matt Gaetz, was because of allegations on him for sex trafficking and other things like that. But just watch this. It was put together so great, this clip. You have to see this and just watch the flip. This is what's happening to so many people. Ladies and gentlemen, wake up. Wake up.
What's happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official.
It's just an op, and it was an op to silence me, and Israel was involved. And I hate to say that. I was shocked to learn it.
First of all, who is this Department of Justice former employee who's trying to extort the money from you, you say?
His name is David McGee. He was a top official in the leadership in the Northern District of Florida as a prosecutor. He currently works at the...
So here's the question. I'm sorry. Did he know back then when that it was Israel, or he found out later? Now all of a sudden he found out later. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Complete flip. It was this person. No, it was this person. No, it was this person. The storylines get so convenient for it to be Israel all of a sudden about everything. This is wild to me.
Beggs and Lane law firm.
There was a consulate official.
Okay, this is amazing. So this is the charge that you were trafficking underage girls.
Absurd. And
I don't even know what the charge was, but that was the headline. Matt Gaetz traffics underage women. It's like, oh my gosh, can't talk to Matt Gaetz anymore.
Well, for us, the shocking moment was when my father, who's a prominent person in our community, got outreach from someone he had never met that said that there were pictures and images of me with underage, and my dad needed to meet with these people right away. And so my dad, somewhat surprised and concerned, goes and talks to these people and says, "What in the world are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, Mr. Gaetz, we need $25 million from you to go and rescue a spy that is being held in Iran. And if you do that, we can make these things about your son go away."
But you're saying that David McGee was motivated by greed. He was trying to extort money from your family. That's his motivation, you're saying?
I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he could make this investigation go away along with his co.
But I thought it was Israel that did that. Was it Dave McGee, or was it a consulate member from... Ladies and gentlemen, this is real time. We don't have to go and ask anybody any questions. It's real time. You're seeing this. Matt Gaetz, come on, man. Come on.
Conspirators. They even claim to have specific connections inside the Biden White House. Now, I don't know if that's true. They were promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Obviously, I don't need a pardon. I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong. But what I am troubled by is the real motivation for all of this. Just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation.
But you know that the government of Israel was involved because this was an Israeli government official who was involved in this?
Yes, a person who, his name's Jake Novak. I think he currently works for Real America's Voice. And he sent text messages.
What?
Yeah, that's the name of the official. And he sent messages to Scott Adams saying that he was involved in this scheme that was later deemed a criminal scheme to shake down my family.
So what
based on
happened
these
to
false
him?
allegations. He got a television show.
Listen, guys, I just I hate to ask you this, but I want to ask you all: is this passing the vibe check? Is this passing the vibe check? I want to know. I mean, you can't. Things are being recorded. You go on somewhere, you're talking to Tucker Carlson here and there, and it's so crazy. It's how convenient. When Tucker has basically almost made his whole entire platform now. Let's just be honest. Every interview points to Israel being some type of demon. And with everybody he platforms, it's like, if that is not what you believe in, you don't get to come on the show, right? And if you do, if you're Ted Cruz or somebody like that, then you only come on so he can push back to you. So you either are anti-Israeli establishment or government, or you are an individual who believes in that. So these are the points that are going to be brought out inside the conversation, no matter if Tucker agrees or disagrees with you, right? And then you get to come on this platform. But it's so interesting, when they were on Fox and they had a different point of view, they said things differently. Then he comes over here and he says, no, it was Israel that was behind all of it, with the exact same story. So he's accusing them of the exact same thing that he was saying that this other person did. What I'm telling you is, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching propaganda. It is happening. This is real propaganda, and it's really happening in real time. There's another clip of Matt Gaetz going on his tantrum over here. And I just, what I'm trying to tell you is be warned, be discerning, be a person of discernment, and watch. Now, when I see people, I can look at them very clearly, and I can see that when I watched that, there was nothing about that, especially as we came down to the wire of ending that clip, that even appeared to be true. Somebody text him, this guy Novak texts the other guy and told him, who, by the way, is not Israeli. So I don't even know why. So anyway, he texted the other person and then told them that, yeah, I was involved in that. And he's got the text messages. Somebody will be incriminating themselves on a text message. Like this, that's like Candace Owens type stuff. I'm just saying. Matt Gaetz, y'all.
For a foreign government and trying to shake down my family.
Well, what's the answer, do you think?
Well, some have shared with me their concern that this was a consequence of some of the votes and positions I took in the Congress. I represented one of the most military-heavy districts in the entire country.
I think number one.
Yeah, right up there. And I saw these wars in the Middle East that my neighbors and friends had fought in, as unworthy of our best, unworthy of the disruptions in parenting and the divorces and the injuries,
suicides. Yeah.
And so I took the position that we should be less entangled in these things, and I think that really shocked a number of people who thought I would be more of a neocon coming from the district I came from.
You know, these guys are always blaming Israel for the Iraq war, and it was Israel. Did people not remember 9/11? Did not remember? You have to take people for what they say. If these people have been telling you for years, death to America, you have to believe them at some point, right? Like, at what point do you actually take people's word for it? Right? Like, oh yeah, Israel's just dragging us in all of these wars. And this is what I'm saying. Once you start to see uniform messaging like this, right? Everybody all of a sudden starting to wake up. Wake up. This is what we'll call it. You know, this is why we're calling this the woke right. This is exactly why we're calling it, because everybody's waking up all of a sudden, right? Just waking up. So when you start to see packaged messaging from Tucker, from Gaetz, from others, all of a sudden, majority, like once you start to see that the messages is just like, wow, why is everybody saying, wow, this Iraq war, and we got pulled into all this, 9/11 happened. And no, it wasn't the Jews that did it. It was your other friends, basically, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that these guys are in cahoots. There's no doubt about it. If you all you have to do is see who Tucker is bringing onto his platform, and then you can see that there's 9 times out of 10 that Israel's going to come up, and he's the one person talking about it. I'll never have to say Israel again. I don't want to say Israel. I don't want to, whatever the case is. And then every time he brings somebody on, this is who he's platforming all the time. So, and this is one of the reasons why I have gone on record saying that this is why Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous, because he's guising everything in the sense of questions. And it's sliding into people, as opposed to where Candace, you know where she's coming from. Nick Fuentes, you know where they're coming from. They're at least saying it out. They're saying it out. They're not asking questions about Israel. At the beginning, Candace she tried that. And then all of a sudden she's out about it. Don't allow yourself to be fooled by these people. Do not allow yourself to be fooled by you. More from Matt Gaetz.
the bigger issue is that Rabbi Yehuda would probably classify you and I as anti-Semitic because we've been critical of some of the policy choices of the Israeli government. And that broad application of anti-Semitism, to say anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, to say that even some things in the Bible may be deemed anti-Semitic if they're critical of Jews at any point. It has created such a curiosity among young people to test those mores and challenge those dogmas. Right. Like, I think there are a lot of like the Mark Levin Israel First crowd who look at us and say like, we're the problem. Tucker and Matt are the problem. Actually, we're not the problem. The problem is you lost us.
Oh, I know.
They show these old videos of you being very complimentary of Israel and critical of Israel's critics. You could easily find a lot of my library speaking on the floor of the Congress supporting a strong and robust U.S.-Israel.
Yeah, we lost you to Qatar. That's what it is. I mean, the fact of the matter is that most people, when they're saying this, and I want to address this because somebody left me a comment, and I'm going to address exactly what he's saying over there. So I'm not going to say a lot now, because when I get to the comment section to actually answer you, the people, I'm going to give you my feeling on this. Now, the truth is, most people know, and you don't have to be Jewish to know this. Most of the time when you find these people are anti-Israel, they're anti the Israeli government or whatever the case is, whatever they say in those guys, they are also anti-Semitic. And it just is what it is, that the two things go together, and it's hard to misconflate, because if most Jews are Zionists, then usually who they push back against is the Jews. The Jews end up becoming the problem. All of a sudden, they're the scapegoat for everything. It's not, it's just a new way of saying it. Back in the day, you used to be able to say, like the Jews. Now, today, what people want to do is they want to seem more, I don't know if the word's politically correct, at least they want to disguise it some, and they want to say Israel. So it's not the Jews are involved in everything. It's not them that they set me up. It's the Israeli government. The Israeli government is who set me up, and they went behind, and they did this, and they did all of this. This is what he's saying. I'm not anti-Israel. If you've been watching Matt Gaetz' show, that's all he talks about. All he talks about is he needs to speak, horrible about Israel. And it's because my friends and all of my other things. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. How is he pro-Israel? What about him is pro-Israel? Today, at least. What about him is pro-Israel? Nothing.
Relationship. So two people who in our 30s were incredibly supportive of this relationship have come untethered. And it is because the relationship has become too burdensome. And friends should be able to tell that to each other. And when you do, that doesn't make you a bad friend. I still consider myself pro-Israel. I think that what the Netanyahu government is doing to Israel is bad for Israel. Much in the way the United States created more terrorists than we killed during the wars in the Middle East that have consumed most of my life. I think that is the chapter of the book they're in right now. This expansionism and the adventurism, and it ends badly. It ended badly for us.
Now, the truth of the matter is, I've said this many times, you don't create terrorism by fighting terrorism. Contrary to this school of thought that if I combat terrorism, I'm only going to create more terrorists. So what do? Not fight the terrorists? Right? So what was Israel supposed to do after October 7th? That was not going to create more terrorists. Give up more land? Gaza wasn't enough. We should give up more. Like how do you stop terrorism if you don't fight it? I'm trying to understand this. So by the U.S. going to go fight, that creates more terrorism. People have to understand that it is a culture thing, and I've said this, I will continue to say it. People become terrorists because of culture. People that become violent, whether they're being oppressed, there are many nations, many people that go into oppression and are oppressed, that don't become terrorists. They don't start blowing up stuff. And it just is what it is. Right? So there was a major issue at some point. I think it was Congressman, it was Byron Donalds. think it was even on the Breakfast Club, they asked him about it. A few people asked him about it when he was talking about Jim Crow. Now, he wasn't saying Jim Crow was the best time or whatever, but let's talk about black oppression. What happened when we were really oppressed? Not this nonsense that's going on today with all this, this fakery right now. This whole, blaming everybody, calling everybody racist or whatever. And the only real racist is like Nick Fuentes or something. But anyway, let's take this and let's look at what happened during Jim Crow. You had much more black businesses, black doctors, black lawyers, black bus line. Contrary to what happened with Rosa Parks. Let's just be honest. There was a black bus line, right? You had, because of the oppression and because of that, not saying that it was good to treat other human beings this way. Not saying that this was the golden age of America, but what I'm trying to tell you is because of the nature and the culture of black people during this time of the 40s, 50s, early 60s. This is already starting getting bad, but at that point, it wasn't a part of the culture to say, oh, so we're oppressed, so let's go and be terrorists. Let's go blow up stuff. So this is why people already bring in the correlation between what's going on in Gaza with the so-called Palestinians and saying that it's equivalent to the black. No, when black people were oppressed, I'm saying, if I'm just bringing this to context for all of you. If we look at what happened in Black America, I'm talking about during that time of the Jim Crow movement. And let's say that I'm just using this as an example, right? As a modern day analogy of equivalency. Now you take Gaza, say that was the Jim Crow era of America, and the black people were all oppressed and they all had to be behind this wall or whatever the case is. It would have been a thriving culture of black businesses, black ownership, sports, and media, music. Things would have been being built, not tunnels, not terrorist cells. That's not what would have been happening, because oppression and terrorism are not related. Terrorism is related to violent culture. When the culture is violent, you create violent people. That's what happens. So fighting terrorism, right, is not going to lead to more terrorists. The terrorists were already going to be terrorists, especially in these cultures, because these are cultures that teach the children to be terrorists when they're young, when they are children. So they are already raised this way. They were going to be terrorists regardless. It would take a miracle for them not to be, because they're raised in cultures that are creating terrorists, that lauds terrorism. So because of that, that's what creates terrorism. It's not oppression. It's not because you went over there to fight bad people. Fighting bad people doesn't lead to more bad people. It leads to elimination of bad people. And the problem is, unfortunately, there's a soft hand, and because of our desire to be very moral nations in the West, what happens is a lot of times the advantage of that kindness gets taken advantage of. And so the jobs never get finished. And when the jobs are never finished, then the terrorist cells or these terrorists to be grow up. And yes, there's more of them because, they have more children than you in the West. It just is what it is. This is a simple math. This is not something that's very, very complicated. But yet you could bring these people on your podcast and they could say certain things. Oh yeah, now we know. More Matt Gaetz, ladies and gentlemen. I want to play this last clip. He's going to be talking a little bit about the Epstein thing.
We're the United States of America.
Oh, I know.
You can't even go in and out of a casino without people knowing that you're there and without it being on every camera. And you're telling me that we don't have the video of Epstein killing himself and that we're all just supposed to expect that this guy who we know, all those people who are in the admin now, my friends, they know Epstein was intel. They know he was tied to our intel. They know he was tied to Mossad. They knew he was tied to Saudi. He was a free agent. He was willing to go.
And British intelligence.
Yeah, and he was willing to go and get this compromat at a time when the British and the Israelis and the United States government needed to get people aligned with the Iraq War. And there was a worry that people would drift off and start opposing an increasingly unpopular war in Iraq. And so they got together, a bunch of people in academia, politics, media, business, and tried to get them in a compromising situation so that then everyone would stay on board no matter what.
That does not sound unlikely. But when he died, Barr, by his own admission, he said, our job is to convince the American public he killed himself and to prevent dangerous conspiracy theories from spreading. The guy was murdered. And so Barr is, by definition, corrupt. Like, attorney generals can't do that. That is totally over the top.
Now, the truth of the matter is, I happen to also believe that something was up with that murder. I think all of us do. Any sensible person knows that all of a sudden the camera stopped working when the guy hangs himself. I don't believe that, so I don't care. You're not going to be able to sell me that also. But now, to say that we know. Now, the evidence has not actually been released about who he was actually connected to. There are theories. And the problem with what he said over there, whether it's true or not, that's not the problem. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is the language of which the way these people speak, right? They say things like, oh, now we know that all this is whatever, and the evidence still isn't there. Now we know means that me and my friends, I have people that are inside and they know already that this is already the case. And so when they say it, it sounds like it has more credibility than what it actually has because there's no real evidence. The evidence has not come out that he was a part of the CIA or he was a part of Mossad or anything else. It probably was CIA. Who cares? I don't know. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is this language of now we know already. You know, that's like it all the time. Now we know that TPUSA lied because why? Because you had some points that you wanted to pull up. Now we know. And people use this all the time and say, now we know, as if some evidence was brought out and there was no real evidence. So we don't know. And you don't know. And as my mother would say, if you let somebody hit you over the head, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it. And what they are trying to do more than ever, and this is the people that they don't really have are the people of faith. We're talking about those who are of the Judeo-Christian values, Jews, Christians alike, or biblically based, believe in the Bible. This is the demographic that they're after because those are the people that they for sure don't have. Most of everybody else can be easily influenced because there's no foundation. There's nothing for them to stand on. There's no principle. So what they're trying to do is in every single way, they're trying to work it out. And it's so interesting what you start to see now that Israel has to be the enemy. Because, you know, somebody just said this to me. A good friend of mine actually said this to me. I just had a meeting earlier with him. And one of the things he said was like, you know, now that the right is done fighting the woke left, which the fight is not over, contrary to popular belief, just because Donald Trump got into the White House, not over. But the appearance or the allure that the fight with the wokeism is over, right? So now we don't have anything to be against. We have to choose a new enemy. What's our new thing that we are against? What's our new thing that we're fighting against? And Israel becomes a natural scapegoat. Very interesting. I don't have to tell you that in our fast-paced lives, we rarely stop to just breathe, to reconnect ourselves with Hashem and with our purpose. And that's why I'm really excited to tell you about Kavana, an incredible new app that helps bring mindfulness and Jewish spirituality into everyday life. It's filled with guided meditations, music, sleep stories, quick 1-minute pauses, and daily inspiration, all designed to help you live with more Kavana, with more intention, more presence, and more meaning. And right here on the Kavana app, I'll be releasing a brand new guided Heat Bodedut series, a powerful journey into personal prayer and connection with the Creator. So go download the Kavana app today, sign up, and join me for the course. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Nissim Black Show. I really appreciate you guys always. I always appreciate you. Every single time, all the time. So moving on in our program today, we are talking, I want to actually address some of you guys. I want to address some of the comments that you guys have been leaving me. So I will go to the comments section. And just on the last few videos, one of the things that I really would like to pride myself on is not ignoring the things that you guys are saying to me. whether good or bad or whatever the case is. If it's something crazy, I'm probably not going to answer it. And we're setting up everything to be able to start doing live streams. So I want to be able to do the show live. So eventually, hopefully we'll be able to do it at least live on YouTube and then other platforms as we can, X, whatever the case is. But we're building it up and I want to be able to talk to you guys live. But as of right now, a few different comments that came across me and I want to be able to speak to them. So the first comment I want to address is from Amy Thrash. Shout out to Amy for sending this in because this was real. You know, some people just always have something nasty to say, but your question is real. So the sincere question, she says, are you implying that every American should stand with Israel? Are you implying that every Christian should stand with Israel? Is it anti-Semitic not to stand with Israel? I ask because not all Americans agree with Israel politically or the funding the U.S. sends to Israel. In my opinion, that does not mean they hate Jews. It could simply mean that they're America first. They don't place Israel any higher, basically higher than any other American ally. I guess the concern I have is that it seems you're saying everyone needs to be in support of Israel. If not, then they're automatically in support of Hamas or Muslim or anti-Semitic. Can't Americans like Jews but not be in support of certain political actions? Which is true. She continues. It was a long comment, so I want to read everything because I want to be able to answer properly. So it says, I don't think the average American thinks Israel is more special than any other foreign country. So they don't see the need to automatically be pro-Israel. I think the confusion comes from there being no clear distinction between Israel politics versus Israel religion. So when you hear someone say that they don't stand with Israel, you think they hate Jews when really they may not be in support of Israel's government. I'm not Jewish physically, so I appreciate your insight into these matters. So appreciate that. And judging that as the comment came in, which seemed to be very sincere and fair, I want to actually address the comment. So first thing I want to say is ultimately the comment was fair. It's a very fair question, and I appreciate being asked sincerely and not like on a I got you thing. So I'm not going to say that every American and or Christian, whatever the case is, must support every policy of the Israeli government. And I'm not even going to say, I would be so... Yeah, I'm not even going to say that disagreement with Israeli politics automatically equals Jew hatred. We'd hate to say that, but there is a such thing as nuance, right? So you have to be able to articulate the nuance. But the problem is this is when we really get honest, and this is where reality forces us to be honest. So in the case, if the distinction that the person is making, the distinction that I oppose the Israeli government and its policy, and I oppose Jews in Israel existing, if they were as clean and as widespread as people claim that they are, then Jews would not be under attack, under physical attack all across the world right now. Right? If people did not mean that, or if the American people did not mean that, then the earlier clips of this broadcast where I'm showing Jews being attacked in the United States, if Israel, right, and Jews are separate in people's mind, then this will not be happening at the rate that is happening. And yet they are. These are not people that are Israeli soldiers. These are not Israeli politicians. These are not settlers, right? These are ordinary Jews, and they're in Brooklyn, they're in Paris, they're in London, they're in Sydney, Australia, they're in Berlin, they're on college campuses. They're outside of synagogues, outside of kosher stores, right? So including all the Hasidic communities in Williamsburg, and Borough Park, or Brooklyn, and these people are openly anti-Zionist themselves. They do not believe in the Israeli government. There's nobody probably a bigger enemy to the Israeli government than these guys, even though they're Jewish. But still, they get attacked. So then this is what I'm saying. This is when we have to start asking the hard question. And the hard question is this only about politics? And this is where the lines get blurred. And I understand that it's hard for all of you. And the reason why I say it's hard because Judaism is an ethno-religious group. right? There's the national identity, the ethnic of being Jewish. There's the religion of being Jewish. And then you have the political side of it, where you have the state and the nation of Israel, which there are different varying degrees. But if you're Jewish, you're Jewish religiously, maybe not, whatever the case is. So I understand how it could be even confusing from the outside looking in. So, but because of that, it only makes these distinctions even harder for people to make, right? Because if it's only about the politics, then all these Jews who have nothing to do with anything should not be being attacked all over the world, because they have nothing to do with Israeli politics. They have nothing to do with. They have no reason to be a target. So what we're seeing right now, it isn't criticism necessarily. It's not just criticism. It's the displacement. There's a difference between critiquing a government and fixating on the Jewish state uniquely and obsessively and disproportionately. Because people don't scream, end everything with China, or in some people more screaming, but in China, death to China, in Iran, in Turkey, in Syria. They're not screaming that on the right or the left. But everybody knows the chant of from the river to the sea. Everybody knows that chant. It's worldwide. And this phrase in itself, I probably don't have to tell you, does not mean policy reform. It means the eradication of the Jewish state. That's what from the river to the sea means. And this is where the lines get crossed. On American First funding, if a person wants to say that I'm America First and I oppose foreign aid across the board, that position is at least coherent, but it collapses if or when Israel's treated as uniquely, illegitimate. And while far worse, there are far worse regimes, they receive a pass or no scrutiny at all. Nobody ever says anything about them. So also factually, U.S. military aid, just to address some of the other things you're actually saying inside of the comment, U.S. military aid, it largely returns back to the U.S. economy. I've covered that before on this show, but a lot of people don't understand. It funds American manufacturing, it funds American defense jobs and American strategic interest in the Middle East. Israel in itself is functioning really as a frontline ally against Iran and other global jihadist regimes. So you don't necessarily have to like that, but pretending that Israel's like this burden and this rather than a strategic asset is simply not accurate. That's just what's honestly out there apart from people's feelings about it. These are the actual facts of why Israel and America have this alliance. Again, you cannot support that if you don't want to, if you're not trying to say that. But I think that it's deeper for Christians. Now, war and everything else, because of the war that happened, which a lot of people, war is ugly. And war has always been ugly. But the difference is today, it's not the matter of morality. It's a matter of visibility. Because if we're to look at what happened in Israel, or we look at what happened just recently here now in Gaza, Vietnam was worse. Iraq was uglier. Afghanistan was uglier. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were unimaginably worse than what just took place in Gaza. Like Gaza doesn't even touch, not even within a hair's breadth, any of these wars that I just said. But Israel is fighting a defensive war and is under a microscope in real time against enemies, an enemy that embeds itself in civilians, amongst civilians, steals humanitarian aid, celebrates civilian death, broadcasts all these atrocities proudly. So if Israel fought the same way that Hamas fights, the war would be over already. The fact that it isn't over already is the evidence of restraint, not cruelty. But here's the issue now, much more so if you're a Christian. Because if you are a Bible-believing person, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, this is where it stops just being about politics. Because Scripture in itself is not vague. Scripture is not vague. So the Jewish people, the land of Israel, the division of that land, the land of Israel, the book of Joel speaks plainly about the nations being judged for dividing God's land. This is not an issue of whether or not, You could say, oh, but I still love, the Jewish. If you support a two-state solution, anything other than a Jew state solution, yes, that is anti-biblical. That's what the Bible says. So that doesn't require you to love Israeli politicians. That doesn't require you to endorse secularism or approve of the culture of Tel Aviv or agree with every policy. It doesn't require that, but it does require intellectual honesty about what the Bible actually says. And ironically, I myself have issues with the government here, precisely because I take the Bible serious. Because I take the Bible serious, I also have issues with the government here in Israel. So no, it doesn't mean that there's blind nationalism or you have to support, the government. It is though theologically consistent. That's all I'm saying. In terms of the Bible believing community, the Christians that support or don't support, whatever the case is, who believe in the Bible. I'm just saying, if you're Noachites, whoever you are. So saying that you oppose Netanyahu, or I oppose the secular Israeli policies, or I oppose foreign aid even. You could say all of that and not be anti-Semitic. But when Israel is uniquely demonized, Jews worldwide are held responsible, Jewish existence becomes negotiable, right? Our violence in itself is excused or becomes minimized. At that point, something darker is happening. Something darker is at work, whether people admit it or not. So again, you do not have to support the Israeli government. But if your opposition consistently lands on the Jews as a people, or on Israel as a concept, and Jewish self-defense, if that's illegitimate to you, or then it's time to be honest about what you're really driving at, or what you're really saying. So that's not an accusation. This is truth. This is what is actually coming from you, regardless of whatever you're trying to package it in. And the reason why I want to say this is because I know that there are a growing number of Christians asking, they support Israel, they love Israel, the whole everything. And I just want to say this very clearly, especially to all of you who are listening. If you want to support, if you want, the blessing of blessing Israel and all those things, if you want to support Israel, but you don't want to support the state of Israel as a secular government, I understand that. That position, it exists, it's real. And it doesn't disqualify you from blessing Israel. Support does not have to mean endorsing politicians or policies or secular culture. It just does not, especially if it's against your faith, right? If there's principles against it. So supporting Israel does not equal supporting the Israeli government. So that specifically means you don't have to support the politicians. You don't have to support the secular institutions. You don't have to support things that violate your religious convictions. Just like Jews, for instance, Jews are not gonna start funding churches, right? And I understand why Christians may not want to fund religious institutions, right, that don't welcome them, for sure. That's for sure fair. But the key point is here. Supporting Israel, meaning Israel, has always been about the people, supporting the people, supporting the soldiers. If you believe the war in itself is just, if you really understand that, which a lot of people do, even though they may not like how everything's happening, has nothing to do with the soldiers. Even if you disagree with the aspects of the government, supporting the soldiers, that for sure matters. Because soldiers, these are fathers, these are sons, these are brothers, these are husbands defending their home. So you do not have to donate directly to the IDF even. If that makes it more uncomfortable because they're connected to the government. But there are numerous organizations that work to support the soldiers, their families, the initiatives that provide food and gear and trauma for trauma and care to all of these soldiers or the families of these soldiers. There are nonprofits that help wounded veterans integrate. The Bible talks about the vegetation of the land. There's organizations that are helping rebuild up a lot of the crops in the land that was burnt up from October 7th, when they came in and burnt up all the crops and everything like that from all the farmers, right? This is biblical. This is Bible. This is the vegetation. This is the rebirth of the biblical homeland. So all of these things are great initiatives where you can still be blessing to Israel. And when the Bible talks about wars, especially in Israel, even in the end time conflicts, it speaks about people standing in defense of the land. We are living in that era. Since 1948, since 1967, 71, it's 73, and every single conflict since, the Jewish people are back in their land, surrounded by hostile nations that hate them, exactly as the prophets describe. These soldiers are not just symbols, these are the ones from the Bible that are standing in the gap. This is what was foretold. And if military support isn't where it is, and it still isn't where your heart is, there are many other ways to bless. You can bless the poor of Jerusalem, the displaced families, the widows, the orphans, the Holocaust survivor, the homeless, and the destitute. This is obedience to what the Bible says for Jews and non-Jews alike. Prayer. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Your prayers are contributing. Those who bless Israel, you will be blessed. Prayers are also a blessing. Blessing Israel is always included caring for its most vulnerable. So again, just to drive this home for you, you do not have to support Israeli politicians and politics in order to not be labeled anti-Semitic. And you do not have to support secular institutions if you're a person of faith. You do not have to compromise your faith, or you do not have to compromise your beliefs to do so. But if you are a Bible-believing person, then there is no framework in Scripture where Israel is ignored, erased, or treated as morally, expendable or something like that. Like you can't get rid of Israel. So that's what the Bible says. So supporting means praying, feeding the poor, supporting families, helping, soldiers, not the government. I'm saying the soldiers, whatever the case is, standing against demonization. That is not blind, Israel first or supporting nationalism. I'm just talking about from a Bible perspective. So I just want to say that because there is the nuance of the average American or Christians or whatever the case is. There is a difference in the way, and I think there is a difference in the way that Israel should be treated, not necessarily, like I said, the government. But what I'm saying is very hard to make that distinction in today's society. It just really is. Okay, so moving on to more questions and more comments. I have another comment from another listener, and this is Matthew Day, 7783. Thank you so much. He says, so am I correct in saying, because this is in response to Candace and what I had to say about it, so am I correct in saying that the Talmud is basically the religious equivalent to the congressional record, meaning that anything some congressman ever said is recorded? So listen, I would say yes and no, but ultimately not authoritative. Definitely not authoritative. And I would even say it's a good analogy, but the Talmud itself it's recording centuries of rabbinic debate. So there's a lot of debate happening. And another thing is there's arguments, there's questions, there's hypothesis, and there's minority opinions even that come up inside of the Talmud. And the Talmud itself, it preserves the conversation, but not, and it preserves the conversation, not just the final ruling of whatever the actual law is, right? So, but unlike congressional record, so I'm looking at the congressional record and everything that it is, and I would say the difference of it is that really Judaism does not treat every record as something that's authoritative or something that's binding. So Jewish law comes from how those debates were eventually resolved in the Talmud. What's the resolution from the debate? How is it resolved? That is usually what is in the Talmud, and that will become Jewish law. So not every statement that was ever made inside of the Talmud is law, and it's not something that's acted on. So quoting some Talmudic line about and say, this is what the Jews believe, it's like quoting something that is on the floor of Congress and claiming it to be that this represents U.S. law, and this is how the U.S. is. So I'm happy that you asked the question, but it is a complete misnomer. So you have Candace, you have books and all these other things that say the Jews believe this. It really is unfortunate, but unfortunately these people are pulling stuff out. And they don't understand the Talmud, and since they don't learn it, they don't read it. It's easy to take a Talmud, I'm telling you, and just to make up whatever you want out of it because you don't understand what the argument and you don't understand what the ruling is. It's very, very important to know that. Okay, and we got another question that we want to go into. Very interesting. Shout out to Maria, 74. It says Portuguese, Dutch, and German Jews did participate in the transatlantic slave trade. I am of Portuguese, Jewish, and African descent on my father's side, born and raised in the Netherlands, but their involvement was not as extensive as the 1500-year Arab Muslim slave trade, which reached the Middle East, Africa, to southern Spain and Eastern Europe, and continues in some communities and countries today. And I would answer this to say broadly, yes. The truth is that there were some Jews, just like other minorities, living underneath the European empires that participated in colonial economies. That's just what they did, including slavery. Slavery was one of the things that they also included, and it wasn't all Jews, but the role was very limited, and there was nowhere near the dominant people who participated in slavery. Not at all. And they were not the slave owners. They were not the whatever the case is. The thing is perpetuating it, and it has nothing to do. And you're comparing this with the Arab Muslim slave trade that lasted over a millennium, spanned from Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, and even in some regions that it still continues today, illegally, but it still continues today. So this is what you're comparing it to, and to say that gets and this is the problem where these things get dismissed by people like that. So you can acknowledge this and understand that this is historically complex, but to make the assertion that the Jews were the ones behind it, this is complete, straight, old school textbook anti-Semitism. That's what it is. And really specifically to what Candace was saying, she's saying, all the time it's there, it's buried, but you have to dig for it. The truth of it is, it's probably buried in the same place where all the evidence that she's looking for every other thing that she talks about, that there ain't no evidence for. They're all buried in the same place. It's not buried. It's very true that there were some people, but these were some Jews. And they were not the dominant figures. They did not run the slave trade, contrary to what people were trying to say. Falsehood. My beloveds, I thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I appreciate you. I adore you. Please send me messages, send me more. I plan to eventually start live streaming. I haven't done it yet. Should we live stream? Let me know what you think. I would love to do the shows live and be here with you in real time and speak it out with all of you. So let me know if you're into that. If you want to do that, I would love to hear from you. Remember always, do not allow these people, before we close out, do not allow these people to make a fool out of you. Do not allow people to make a fool out of you. You have to have discernment. You have to have God be your anchor. Your biblical values and principles, believe, learn, know who God is so you can know who's not of him. These people are pretending. These people are fake. These people are not really for God, not really for faith. They're not for that. These people are for their own pocketbooks. They're for grandeur. They're for the fame and for the money. That's what they are. And they will constantly keep moving the goalposts and start reshaping everything that you knew to be true. And they're going to continue to shift on major issues because wherever the money is going, wherever it causes them to go, that's where they're going to go. They're not moral individuals and nobody to look up to. All of these clowns. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you have not subscribed to us yet, it's too long. We've been doing this for too long. You got to subscribe. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, always to serve God or to live trying. I'm out.